This is Voices of CX Podcast Season 5. Recently, the speed of change feels like it's stuck on fast forward, and no one knows what's going to happen next. So we've made it our job to keep you up to speed and help you bring out the very best of your business by discussing the latest ideas with industry professionals, top research institutions, and influential thought leaders. Voices of Customer Experience podcast is brought to you by Worthix, a survey platform that self-adapts according to the changes of the market and the world. Discover your worth at worthix.com. Bryan Lamar is currently VP of Insights at EMI Research Solutions. He designs, analyzes, and presents research studies of sample providers, keeps up with trends and innovations in the industry, and has developed a product to help consistency. He has a passion for best practices and quality and assisting companies making the best business decisions possible. He has spent the past 7 years developing a unique understanding of the online quantitative sampling landscape, analyzing his own internal research to help clients reduce sample bias and determine the ideal sampling plan. He also hosts a marketing research podcast, Intellicast. So one more episode of Season 5 of Voices of CX podcast. Today I'm joined by Bryan Lamar, who is an expert at survey sampling and other things in the world of survey sampling and other things. You have your own podcast, right, Brian?
Yes, I'm a fellow podcaster. Thanks for having me.
And your favorite topic is surveys, isn't it?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, my favorite topic on the podcast is surveys, and we break it up and we goof off a little bit because surveys can get a little boring. But yeah, surveys sure. I'm passionate about.
And you went to UGA. You attended the MMR program.
Yeah.
That Worthix is on the board. I sit on the board there. So That's how we met, right?
Right. In Athens.
And that's where we got to talking about this topic that we're both so passionate about. And I really enjoyed when I met you, how much insight you had and how very knowledgeable you were on the topic. And I could think of no one better to come on here and talk about maybe my number one question when it comes to voice of customer surveys, which is sample sizes, panels, and that entire universe. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate having you.
Oh, I'm excited. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So this season, we decided to focus a little bit more on market research and like the technical aspect of it, because it was something that was coming up with listeners a lot. They were like, hey, you guys talk about all these cool things. You talk about technology, you talk about behavior science, but how about the nitty gritty of market research? A couple of your colleagues have joined us already and will join us along the course of this season. But before we get started, for the sake of our listeners, can you just give us a little tiny bio, a rundown of why you are so passionate about this topic and what kind of gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, so I've been in marketing research for my whole career, so over 20 years, and I've had every kind of role in marketing research. I started off as a telephone interviewer, and so I'm very passionate about the respondent experience and what we put respondents through. And that's because I talked to people on the phone 25 years ago for sometimes 30 to 45 minutes. And then I navigated my entire career. I've done kind of every role in marketing research. And I see bad data sometimes. And I think that our industry could really grow if we're providing more actionable, higher quality data for our clients so they can make better business decisions. And so that's where my passion lies, is that I think our industry could really grow and deliver just much better insights if we can just improve a few things.
The first question I want to bring up is probably the question you get most often. And it's probably the topic that you delve into the most, because everyone is kind of talking about this, which is the long-term sustainability of the survey models that we have, what to do about survey fatigue, and how big of an issue is this truly for our industry at the moment. So I know lots of things to unpack in that question.
Let me just rant away. I have a point of view on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so survey fatigue is a passion of mine. And it's hard to measure because we're dealing with people that are willing to take surveys. And it's hard to measure the percentage of people that aren't willing to take surveys because of what we've put them through.
Right.
And so survey fatigue is a big topic. I rail on and I talk to clients about shorter surveys. We've done that for a long time. And the problem lies from 20 years ago. We just moved surveys from telephone to online and didn't shorten them. Mm-hmm. And we started measuring, they're 33% quicker if you take it on a desktop or a laptop. That doesn't mean it was best practice. I mean, I talked to a client the other day that had 25 open-ended questions, and that's just ridiculous. And so
No way.
yeah, and it's a 45-minute survey, and people are willing to do
No
that.
way.
Yeah, people are willing to do it, but that doesn't mean you should be doing the research just because you can find 200 people that are willing to do that. In my opinion, I would love to keep surveys to no longer than 10 to 15 minutes, but I see probably 50% of our surveys are at least 20 minutes. And to try to shorten them is super important, especially because we have a new generation of people coming up whose attention spans are shorter and aren't used to taking 30-minute surveys. I mean, 5 to 10 minutes is a long survey for them. So customizing the surveys so they don't get fatigued and we can improve response rates and we can improve our representativity is super important. And I'm not sure if our industry is really facing that challenge head on yet. We're kind of slow to evolve to the demands of our respondents, and especially clients are slow to evolve their surveys to meet their needs.
I agree with everything you just said. But I wanted to break it down a little bit because when most people, especially people who aren't in the industry, who are not like in the nitty gritty getting their hands dirty, tend to think of surveys in general. When they think of surveys, their mind immediately goes to transactional surveys.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you haven't got your stuff together when it comes to transactional surveys, and if you're still going over 10 minutes, then you should just go away.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're talking to the end consumer, they're not going to provide you with more insight, especially on a transactional basis. But there are other types of research.
Yeah.
There are deeper, more qualitative studies that do require a couple more questions, right? So let's get into that for a second. What are some other surveys that exist out there that no matter how you look at it, there's no way that you can make it that much shorter? And how can we possibly tackle these meatier studies?
Right.
And how can we improve the length of those?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the transactional studies, every time I travel, I was just in Atlanta last week, I was on Delta, I get the follow-up survey on Delta, I get the follow-up survey on Hilton. Those are pretty easy transactional few question surveys that are still frustrating, but they're very transactional. But however, most of what I deal with are more customized research. And so we have a client, I was just talking about them this morning. They do a lot of neuroscience and they want to put people into buckets. And they have like a 20-minute segmentation algorithm that everybody has to take every survey. So you're taking a 20-minute survey just to kind of let the neuroscience, which very, very, very smart people are doing kind of behind the scenes, just to put you into a type of bucket to try to understand what type of person you are and why you do the things you do. And then they really get to the point of the survey, which is really just a consumer packaged goods surveys, getting your opinions on products. That's all it is, but it takes 20 minutes just to get you into the right bucket. That's just, I can't even imagine being a respondent and having to go through that. We deal with clients like that all the time. And, there's studies like attitudes and awareness and usage and behaviors that really get deep into what you're purchasing, where you're purchasing them, where you're using the item. And they can be easily 20 to 30 minutes and go very, very, very deep into very customized surveys that then the clients are using that just to try to understand the market, try to understand why people are using the product and how they're using it. It's very, very, very common. And that's most of what I deal with, that and idea evaluation. And that's another frustrating survey, at least for the respondents, in that, we used to, earlier in my career, we would test ideas monadically, meaning that they just have one idea to evaluate. That's not a problem, right? I'm happy to evaluate one idea until I feel I like it or if I would purchase it. What's unique about it? What are my likes and dislikes? But it's now changed to be more than one concept or idea at a time, where it's sequential-matic. You might evaluate 5 or 10 at a time. And that's where respondent fatigue and quality of data starts to really diminish. If you're evaluating like 5 or 10 ideas, it can be very frustrating, especially if they're a boring idea in a category that maybe isn't very exciting, right? Like if you're evaluating like office furniture, I mean, how exciting can that be? And I show you idea after idea after idea, like it's just office furniture. Like it's no different than the previous 6 that I've seen. So that's where I really try to advise clients into best practices to try to improve their experience as a survey taker.
Do you think that when people like submit to a study, though, they already come in with a different expectation, so they're a bit more tolerant?
Yes, absolutely. We deal with online panels. And so these are groups of people that have joined a panel that have agreed to take surveys. And they're sent an invitation. And in theory, that's a key word here, in theory, they're told exactly what they should be doing. They're told, hey, we have an exciting survey for you. It is 15 minutes long. We will pay you this many points for your time.
Right.
Now, how accurate we are there is debatable. Unfortunately, many times we tell people it's a 15-minute survey, and a 15-minute survey for you might be a 30-minute survey for me because I might be slower. I might have more to say. I might have to think about it. I might have a child crying in the background that I have to attend to. I might be at work and I might have somebody pop in. And so the 30-minute survey is where you start to get frustrated because, hey, you told me it's 15 minutes. But these people tend to have agreed to do this. And there's a lot of those people. And there's a lot of people taking surveys for not a lot of money for their time.
So this is where we go into like the professional survey takers.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I don't even think that you can name it that, but essentially
call it.
People who are compensated. Oh, great.
Yeah, we call it professional survey takers. Absolutely.
Do people like actually just answer surveys all day long?
There are some people that do that. Yeah, they join a lot of panels, and you can't make a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably, make $1 or $2 per survey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad for like a little thing on the side to do on your day off or in the evenings if you have some downtime. There are a lot of people that are professional survey takers that we try to identify when we're looking at the data. We try to identify if people, this seems like they've taken a lot of surveys before.
Mm-hmm.
You can debate. Generally, people don't want professional survey takers because they tend to answer surveys.
I wouldn't want.
Yeah. But unfortunately, they're kind of a necessary evil in our industry that they're ready and willing to take surveys. They're people that are really willing to give their opinions on products and services, and we need their opinions. Yeah, so we want a mixture of people.
But how much do their opinions actually count? And I know that this is bringing on the controversy right here, but how much do their opinions matter versus an actual user of that service or that platform or the product?
Yeah, it really depends on the survey. Sometimes their opinions can be super valuable and they can have quite an impact on a brand because depending on the target, it's hard to find certain people. And if you are identified as someone that maybe drives a certain vehicle that's hard to find, then your opinion will matter a great deal. And yours will count more, honestly, than other people. So if you're looking for a Ford Taurus or a Toyota Camry driver, there's a million of them, right? But if you're looking for the Tesla owner, your opinion is going to count much more weight, unfortunately. And so, yeah, those are very important people to try to ensure that they are who they say they are and that they aren't professional survey takers. So it's super important. It's hard to do. It's very hard.
In the past weeks, we've seen drastic fluctuations in customer buying patterns and sentiment. Now, more than ever, in this time of need, it's important to monitor and track how your customers perceive your processes and experiences. If you'd like to know more about how Worthix can help your company stay ahead of customer expectations, reach out for a demo at worthix.com. Is there some sort of, this may sound a bit big brothery, but is there some sort of database that stores all of the information that survey respondents have previously answered as a way to pre-segment them? So the idea occurred to me when you're talking about the Teslas, right? So if you have already been pegged as a Tesla driver, could that be useful in the future?
Yeah, we call that profiling. When people join an online panel, they typically get profiled, and that is a very boring survey. And what they're doing is they're trying to identify you as, are you a homeowner? What's your level of education? What kind of car do you drive? Where do you bank? What kind of smartphone do you have? Where do you shop? What kind of products do you buy? So you'll go through this giant battery of questions, and depending on how you answer those questions, we'll target surveys towards you. If you're identified as a Tesla owner, you better believe that you're going to get a lot of surveys about Teslas.
Mm-hmm.
And you can argue the merits of that because maybe all they're getting now is Tesla surveys, and then they're kind of biased as a survey taker, right? Because all they talk about is Teslas. And you should really be talking a wide range of topics in order for best practice. But yeah, we do that. The better panels do that more with programmatic and API data and third-party data where you're really just kind of opting in and connecting your data rather than answering it. Answering can be very long and monotonous and very boring and painful for respondents. Also, it changes, right? So today I may not have one child, But in a year or two, I might have another child, right? So how often do you ask those questions? I might have a new car. I might bank somewhere else. I might have different shopping behaviors. I might have a different income bracket. You have to kind of continuously update that, which continues that frustration. But we do that all day long, and it helps us provide a better respondent experience for people if we're targeting surveys towards them rather than going to just the general population.
And let's be honest, Brian, there probably isn't a way to make that initial profiling survey less painful, is there?
Not really, unless there's new technology that maybe will help with that. There's kind of pie in the sky that I'm super excited about that maybe will help with that. But generally, as an industry, we ask people's opinions and their attitudes and behaviors. And so we kind of have to ask those questions in order to target the future surveys towards them.
Right. So has there in the past, I'm going to say 10 years, just for the heck of it, have you noticed a decrease in people willing to even be compensated to take surveys?
A decrease in like people that are willing to take surveys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no. So we have a lot of attrition in survey takers, but they're just constantly being replenished. And so the panel companies are really good at identifying websites or affiliate networks or areas where they can attract people to join their panel. The key to those companies are to increase the longevity of them. And so it's about providing them with a good experience. Traditional research would mean that you're only there to take surveys. And you're taking surveys not really for the money. You're taking surveys because you want to give back to the products and services. You want to help shape them.
Yeah.
And you're paid a little bit for your time, but not much. That has changed a lot over the past 10 years in that we're trying to be more engaging to people. They're not just joining a company to take surveys. You might be joining a company that is providing other benefits towards you. Maybe you play games while you're on there. Maybe you interact with other people. Maybe you get discounts on products and services. And as part of that, you also take surveys and you build points, and it's part of a community that you build loyalty with. And that's kind of the model that has started to trend in the past few years. They're getting paid differently, I would say, maybe not more, but differently. And so that's been a big trend. Some companies compensate their members a little bit different, and the pricing structure, the pricing model of compensating surveys has changed a lot over the past 10 years. Some people almost like it's minimum wage, regardless of how much time you take to take the survey, you're paid minimum wage for that. So if it's a 1-minute survey, maybe you get 50 cents, regardless if you even qualify for the survey. If it's a 10-minute survey, you get paid $1 regardless. And that's become a little bit of a trend as well. I'm hopeful that that attracts more people into the survey taking business, because we need more. We don't have enough people to take surveys, which is a little kind of a dirty little secret in our world, is that there aren't enough people to take all the surveys that our clients want to pay for. And so that's why sometimes people, I think, turn a little bit of a blind eye to professional survey takers and maybe even lower the bar in quality, which is kind of sad.
I'm going to say something and you tell me if you agree or not, okay?
Okay.
Survey sample size has always been low. True or false?
I would say false.
Okay.
We see really large base sizes all the time. It's very common to have a giant base size. And sometimes I question, why do you need to talk to 3,000 people? Which that seems large to me. I don't know if that seems large to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or 10,000 people. It's very common for people to administer large base size surveys. I see more 500 people surveys than I do less than 100.
You know, last week we sent out a survey that got like 3,000 responses in 4 hours.
Yeah, that's very common. The way that we're administering surveys now, it's kind of almost in the moment, which is probably improving the respondent experience, is that we want people taking survey in the time and place of their choosing. And so if I'm at work and I want to take it on my smartphone, that's how I should be able to take the survey.
Yeah.
If I'm at Kroger and I get a pop-up to take a survey while I'm in Kroger, that should be how you take it. Or in my evening or late at night or in the morning before work. We're getting much better at improving when and where and how people can take surveys. And we can do them really, really, really quick. That's very common for people, especially for public opinion and polling, that you can do surveys like almost real time. It's pretty crazy, actually.
But do you think that in general, over the past 100 years,
right,
that surveys have been a thing? If we go all the way back to pen and paper.
Yeah.
Right? The ratio or the percentage of people that are willing to take your survey, do you think that has been pretty much the same?
No.
Or do you think there's been a drop?
Yeah, there's definitely been a drop. And a lot of that is because I saw on Green Book they asked about how much do you trust market research as an industry. It was really low. It
Mhm.
was like below the police. And, you could argue the merits of whether you
I
should
wonder
trust the police. It's
why.
really low. I think it's a lot of times because people think of market research generally as polling,
Mhm.
and polling might be off. And if polling is off, as it was, and I'm doing a webinar on this soon, so this is top of mind, I'm researching it. A lot of the polls were off, like in the 2008 and 2012 elections, not just in the US, but in Australia and Israel and the UK and Canada. People really started
South America too.
Yeah, South America, absolutely. People started distrusting polling, and marketing research felt the impact of that. It has kind of a bad reputation. We need like a PR person, I think, for the industry.
I think we should stop doing political polls in general and
Yeah.
name that industry something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to call you political polls, just PP.
Yeah.
You're PP. We're
Right.
MMR, you're PP.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because we do completely different things.
Yeah.
And we don't have to prove to the world that we're right or wrong because of the nature of what we do versus what the polls do.
It's scientific research.
Yeah.
It's extremely different.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, do you think that the market has also suffered from company malpractices?
Oh, yes.
In the sense that it's just companies just taking advantage of it and just absolutely disregarding or disrespecting people's times by sending them surveys that haven't been properly tailored, that haven't been properly written.
Yes.
Let's just throw all the questions in there because since we're sending out a survey, we might as well get all those questions in anyway. So instead of carefully segmenting the base, instead of asking, only the questions they need to know, I saw some examples about that with like airline companies, for example, that they were making their customers go through all these qualifying questions before answering the survey. When really, honestly, the company has access to all that information. I mean, especially if you're an airline and you're required by law to fill in so much information, they've got so much data already.
Right.
So instead of using that to eliminate the time of the survey, they're just being lazy about it and just, asking your date of birth or your age range. It's like, that. You know my date of birth. It's on my documents,
Yeah, you touched on a couple of hot topics for me. One of them is...
It was my mini rant.
Oh, I love it. That was awesome. I completely agree with you. One of them is that clients and buyers of research have a ton of data, and they're not good. We're not good as an industry in answering business questions with somebody else's. You already have the data. We want to do a survey, a unique survey, every business decision we do over and over and over again, instead of trying to chunk it into one survey or using what you've already surveyed. That's one thing that I've seen that the whole industry forever has been really bad about it. And the other thing is that you touched on is that we've abused respondents relentlessly over the past, I don't know, at least my entire career, in that we send them poorly designed surveys. We send surveys that don't make sense. We don't make them optimized on every device available. I did a survey about iPhone users that you couldn't take it on an iPhone, which was really crazy, right? And it was among iPhone users. We ask questions over and over again. There's something in sampling called routing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take a lot of surveys, you'll notice that you answer the same questions over and over again. And it's basic questions. It's like, what's your gender? What's your age? What's your income? What's your education? Then you get routed to another survey because you kind of qualified and you answer the same questions again.
Yeah.
Imagine how frustrating that is to, hey, we want you to take a survey.
It would drive me crazy.
Your opinions are so valuable. Please answer these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And you get gender 3 times and you get income 3 times.
Yeah.
As an industry, we're slowly improving that experience for people, but we have just been horrible to people. And I mean, respondents are people, right? You and I are respondents, and everybody's a respondent, and it's just not been great.
If you've been struggling with the whole work from home thing, we've got you covered. Worthix's Work From Home University will be sending weekly advice on how to be productive, cut out distractions, and just stay sane in general straight to your inbox. And if you're curious on how we're tackling work from home here at Worthix, just follow us on Insta, Twitter, and LinkedIn for updates. I want to add some more accountability on behalf of the companies that are hiring surveys also. And I think that a lot of the responsibility in how they kind of burned out their customers with surveys is by doing absolutely nothing with that feedback, or the customer feeling like their feedback made absolutely no difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about closing the loop, because closing the loop is a thing. But if you take a giant organization like Verizon that's got hundreds of thousands of customers, closing the loop might not always be possible every time a customer answers a survey. But one way or another, if that customer that painstakingly took your survey, if they don't feel like that survey had any purpose whatsoever, if they finish and they're like, why the hell did I just do that?
Right.
What a waste of time. They're not going to read my survey. They're not going to make the improvements that I want them to make. I think that's the thing that, at least for customers, especially transactional surveys, that's the one thing that pisses me off as a customer when I'm answering a survey, where I'm like, why am I even taking my time to fill out this response? If the company, I know that sometimes the company doesn't even have a way to properly process what I wrote, because they're not going to sit there and read every answer, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that pains me as well. My company, Worthix, we do super duper cool NLP. There are a lot of companies out there that have come up with some, revolutionary and innovative technologies to better process surveys and everything. But I still feel like companies have the obligation of acknowledging that feedback somehow. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, I used to work at a company years ago when online research was just in its infancy. And what we had to do every single study was we had to take some of the data and provide it back to them. What you say, I do a custom research on research study with thousands and thousands of respondents. So that's one of the questions I asked them is, what frustrates you about surveys? Why would you take more surveys? What would it take? And one of the number one things is feeling like my opinion is heard, or getting feedback on the survey that I took, so that you know that your time is valuable and your opinion matters. And so we used to do that, and it was hard to do. We used to try to find 2 or 3 questions in the survey, and we would respond to every single person that took it and said, hey, here's what the data looked like and what you took. And so, yeah, you're right that we need to do a better job as an industry in letting people feel special. Mm-hmm. Some companies can do that kind of real time. You're taking a survey, you click on an answer, and it tells you how you kind of compare to other similar people taking the survey. Because, that's so important to people.
Can I rant a little bit more about another thing that really bothers me about surveys? I mean, you're the perfect person to rant to. I've got to be honest.
No, please. I'm recording this too, by the way.
So another thing that really annoys me as a customer taking surveys, I've got issues with transactional surveys. Okay, I think you can tell, because let's imagine I'm buying an airline ticket. And I've so far, up until that moment, I've had a horrible experience with that company. And then I get on the phone with a company rep, and that rep does a great job to the best of their abilities. Right. And they try really hard, and they do everything they can to help me solve the problem. My problem might be entirely siloed in a different department that has nothing to do with that rep.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the call, I get the survey, and it's like, please answer according to this transaction alone, exclusively this one individual that you just spoke to. How would you rate their service? Like, I don't want to talk about this one situation. This is the only opportunity that you're giving me a voice as a customer after all this crap that you put me through as a company. At this moment, I want to vent as a customer. I don't want to rate the representative I just talked to. I want to rate my experience as a whole. And I can't do that.
Yep.
I think that's a huge mistake. It's a huge opportunity that companies are missing out on, where they're like being so, how could I even say this? Where they're focusing
rigid?
on that one moment of the customer journey. They're failing to look at the entire experience.
Right. Yeah, 100% agree with you that there should be some sort of, I don't know what you call it, but you create a system where you have the opportunity to kind of rant about anything you want to, right? And maybe that's just, okay, the first 5 questions are about your last interaction. And then, do you want to tell us anything else? It wouldn't be that hard to kind of create. And so if that happened to you, that'd be a good example of someone listening to their customers and trying to be more customizable and offer more well-rounded feedback and things like that. I don't know if that exists, but I completely agree with you on those transactional surveys. It's very, very, very frustrating. And a lot of times they're also delayed. Like, thinking about the time that you spoke to an AT&T representative and it was on December 14th. I'm like, I don't remember December 14th. I barely remember this morning. I don't remember the interaction and how well it went. Those are very frustrating to me as well. I can pile onto your rant.
Sometimes I'll get a survey, like a short one on like my Facebook timeline or something like that. And it's like, do you remember seeing an ad from this company? I'm like, no.
Those are the worst.
Nope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, in when it comes to those things, I'm like, okay, you really have to be it's more time sensitive than that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking here of, maybe there's a way to have customers on each touch point. So, we know that in general, when a company is creating a relationship with their customer and they want to listen to their customer, which is great. I mean, that's gone so far from, the past 20 years when companies couldn't care less about their customers at all.
Mm-hmm.
What if there was an option to opt in certain moments of the journey? So do you want to answer a survey? For yes, press 1. For no, press 2. And then you just get these little prompts along your journey so that you get to answer the survey whenever you want. And then when you choose to answer the survey, instead of it being transactional, it can be holistic.
Yeah.
And not holistic in the sense where I'm asking about every single transaction, but just understanding is there anything going on that we should know?
Yeah.
How are we doing in general?
Right.
And not being so, because the thing is that as a customer, if something's going wrong, that's when I'm going to take the time to answer.
Yep.
If everything is great, then no news is good news.
Yep. Maybe this might be a crazy idea, but have you been to the airport where you evaluate the restroom and you're coming out of the restroom and
Yes.
there's is it clean or is it dirty? That's pretty much all you evaluate. Maybe you could put a system. It's quick and easy, right?
Right.
And that's a good way of getting feedback of, we need to send someone to the bathroom to clean it. That's really pretty much the only reason it exists. What if we could put a system like that, in everywhere in life? If you're in the grocery store, my deli experience was good. Oh, but now I'm in this aisle and you're missing lots of items. I'm unhappy here. And then my checkout time was way too long, so I'm unhappy here. What if you could put a system where you're constantly just evaluating everything in life?
Yeah, but what if you can just do a good or bad? Because check this out.
Good or bad.
When you're leaving the bathroom at the airport, first of all, that touch screen is disgusting.
Yes.
I'm so terrified of touching that.
Yes, me too.
Because you're walking out of the bathroom and you're like, ew, right?
Yeah, I'm a germaphobe, so yeah.
Yeah, so, but instead of asking if this was clean or dirty, just ask, is there a problem or was everything satisfactory?
Yep.
Because that way I can just say problem and you send somebody. It doesn't matter if the faucet is broken or if there's tissue all over the floor or if the bathroom is dirty. It's bad and good,
right?
And then from there, then you can dive deeper. So if it's something that requires more feedback or more insight, then you can ask the person, hey, do you want to talk about it? Right?
Yeah.
But some sort of prompt to give the person the opportunity.
Yep.
What I think it is the following. I think that you need to give people the possibility to share their voice when they need to.
Yes.
So that channel has to be there. It has to be available. But if they have nothing to share, then don't burn them out by asking them something unnecessarily. So provide the channel so that the customer knows you're constantly there and you're constantly ready to listen. But make it really, really easy for them to opt out of that situation and maybe opt in somewhere in the future when they do have a problem or when they want to share a compliment. So I think that providing customers with the opportunity to know that you're always listening, but then make it really, really easy for them to answer or not.
Yeah.
That for me might be a pretty good upgrade.
That would be a great upgrade, especially because I don't know about you, but I try to always give feedback, and a lot of times I'll go to the website and try to, all right, I just want to give some feedback, and it's impossible to find the ability to contact someone or give feedback. It would not be that hard to put up a system of feedback on a website.
Yeah.
That should be a model that most, especially service companies, utilize.
Yeah.
And I think, by the way, we're solving all of the world's problems right now.
I think so too. I hope everybody listens to this episode. My God.
Solved it.
No, but think about it. The worst thing possible is when you have something to say and you've got no one or nowhere to share it.
Right.
My friend Nate Brown, he tells the story of having a problem buying a chicken sandwich at a chicken place, which shall remain unnamed.
Okay.
And when he tried to complain, the person that he spoke to was like, I don't know what to do with your information.
Oh, yeah.
He was not equipped at all to deal with that information. And she had absolutely no way to make sure that information reached the right people.
Right.
But if Nate knew that there was a totem or some way for him to immediately give that feedback and know that that feedback was going to go somewhere, great. There are plenty of times that I just want to let people know there is a problem. I don't want to complain.
Right.
I don't want a gift card.
Exactly.
I don't want to be compensated. I just want to say, hey, company, you know what? I like you. I like doing business with you, but I've got this issue and this issue is kind of pissing me off. Can I please tell you about it so you can fix it? And I can continue to have a good relationship with you, please, and thank you.
Yeah, the comment card for the modern age, that doesn't exist. That's what you're talking about. That's all it is.
This has been the most cathartic.
I feel like we're getting angry.
Like it's almost like a brainstorming session, Brian.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I'm getting.
Yeah, me too. I think we are, again, solving a lot of problems, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And I've got like 52 other questions to ask. So I'm going to have you back on the on the podcast sometime to get it done with.
Yeah.
But finishing up, how can people hear more from you? Since, I mean, like, honestly, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm sure you've got a lot more.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
Well, they can find me at emi-rs.com. That's our website. On LinkedIn, I'm easily accessible. I also do a podcast called Intellicast. I actually did 15 minutes just last week on Publix, an Atlanta brand, which I had an amazing customer service experience at a Publix in Atlanta last week. And so I brought some people on to talk about it. The passion that you heard today around surveys and experiences, that's kind of who I am. So I'm really glad that you had me on to talk about it.
Awesome. And yeah, go give Brian's podcast a listen because it's really fun. And it's not boring, and it's super duper structured. It's like sometimes you do some like totally weird different things. Yeah, we did a taste test once on a podcast that didn't translate very well to the podcast environment, but we do stuff like that all the time. Yeah, and imagine like chewing sounds. Like,
we did
or something.
We did 3 minutes inside the Publix last week. So.
Ooh, yeah, I love me some Publix. Well,
yeah,
I'm a fan of Publix.
You should be. They're amazing.
They are. They really are. Brian, any social media handles you want to share? If people are you active on social media?
I'm not personally, but our company is. It's EMI_research.
Okay.
And so follow us. We're kind of loud, and we talk about the topics that you heard here today a lot on social. So give us a follow.
Tons of fun. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on, and I'll have to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Good times.
Thank you for joining us on one more episode of Voices of CX podcast. This podcast is hosted and produced by Mary Drumond, edited and co-produced by Steve Barry. Voices of CX is brought to you by Worthix. Keep up with the speed of change at worthix.com.